Hello everybody, welcome to the last part of the methods of data collection. So we have seen most probably all the methods like observation, interview, survey method, questionnaire, schedule, and now we can see about the case study method of data collection. Before we step into the case study method, when you're going to see about the method of survey, questionnaire and schedule, they just have some similarities between them, and sometimes they also stand distinct from one another. So we can see some comparative analysis between the methods that we have seen so far. Then we can see finally about the case study method. Now coming to the questionnaire and schedule. So we have discussed the method of questionnaire and schedule in the last video. But here, when it comes to the method of questionnaire, it is sent by the researcher to respondent. As I said before, the researcher is sending the particular questionnaire set of questions to the respondents, and from that they are going to receive the data. But here, in case of the schedule, the researcher is filling the particular set of questions, the data, at the time of the data collection. Now we are going to see the role of the researcher at time of administering a questionnaire and a schedule. Look at their presence. So here in the questionnaire, the presence of the researcher is not needed at all at the time of data collection. But here in schedule, the presence is much more needed. And here the questionnaire is a very cheap method because he can just prepare the question and he can just throw it to the respondents and he can just getting distributed it, and fine, he can go ahead with that. But in case of schedule, it is costly because the presence of the researcher who is the person who is in charge to collect the information, and here since his presence is very much essential, you just imagine to each and every respondent, if his presence is much more needed, then obviously it will be a costly method too. So it is not that cost effective as that of the questionnaire. And response is generally low because sometimes in questionnaire sometimes we just have an interest to go ahead with the questionnaire, sometimes we not be interested to go ahead with the questionnaire, we not be trying to fill all those things with our opinion. So sometimes we neglect it. But here in times of schedule, it is not the case. We are having a high rate of response because the presence of the researcher plays a vital role in that. And here, identification of respondents is not clear because after collecting the data from a questionnaire, we will not know who responded. As I said before in the last video also, maybe I can just distribute. When I say I just throw the questionnaire in the sense, I just distribute the questionnaire to other persons through my friends, through my known persons, through the other fellow researchers, something like that. If I'm able to distribute the questionnaire, but I'm not sure that who are my respondents. But here, in the case of schedule, I know very well who are my respondents are. I know the respondents because I have a personal relationship with them. I just start to understand their emotions, their feelings, because I have a closer association with them in the time of the data collection. So here my respondents are known to me. Sometimes the questionnaire may not get returned to you. It's a very big problem. You will be distributing some around 200 to 50 questionnaires, but you will be getting back only around some 100 or 150 around it. It all depends it. But here no such occurrence with schedule because it is you who are going to collect the data at the time of the data collection. With the schedule, you just go into that, you have a face-to-face interaction, and then you elicit the information from them and you just start collecting it. And in questionnaire, as I said, there is no personal contact. But in schedule, a personal contact is existing. So you just imagine a researcher who needs to know who are his respondents and who has established a high degree of association with them after the time of the data collection, before and during it. Every now and then, we have the association with them. So there, we have a personal contact is being establishing. And if the personal contact is established, it is highly advantageous because the respondents will be feeling free in giving the responses. They will be highly flexible and they will be giving the actual data. It is not a fake, or it is not for the meantime, or it is not for whiling away the time. It is not the case. They gave the real data, whatever they feel and whatever the actual thing is, we can able to record it as a data. But in questionnaire, no, you are in need of a literate respondents. You want your respondents to be literate because your presence won't be there. They have to read, they have to understand, and they have to respond it. So it is possible only with literates and educated fellows. So they'll be able to read and write it. But here in schedule, there is no such limitation. Even if your respondents are illiterate, even if they're not able to read and write, you can just read the question to them and you can able to collect the data from them, even though your respondents are not aware of what is what. So just from their own personal experience, they are going to give you the feedback. They are going to give you the response. They are going to give you the data. But in the question, it is not the case. So all that is depending on your presence. If your presence is there, then you can go with the schedule. If your presence is not possible, you can go with the questionnaire. And the risk of incompletion accuracy is more. Sometimes, some people will be filling the questionnaire and they'll be feeling bored with that. They'll go with some things. Some parts will not be filled at all by them, which will be appearing to be the most important part of the analysis of the questionnaire. So these are some basic difficulties we personally feel. But in case of schedule, each and every the response is recorded. It is complete. The lack of incompleteness is very, very less. The chances are very less over there. But here, in questionnaire, the risk of incompletion accuracy is more. Because they may not know which is important, they may not know what is what. Sometimes they drop it as usual. Sometimes they just fill their name and give and go off. But it is not the case of a schedule. So in schedule, there is utmost care. There is both the role of the respondents and researchers at the time of data collection. But here, in time of questionnaire, the role of the researcher is not there at the time of data collection. Prior to that it is there and maybe after that it is there. But during data collection, the presence is not there. So the presence makes a big difference. So that is distinguishing the questionnaire and the schedule. So though both the methods are running at the back of the questions, setting up of the questions, but still the presence of the researcher makes a difference, the questionnaire as well as the schedule. So when we are possible, just as I was telling in the past videos, when you feel that as a researcher, I can make my presence every now and then. If you are going to do a full-time research, then it is very easy for you to go with the schedule and like that. But suppose in case if you're indulged in part-time research and if you're indulged in some other works and you're not able to do that, so we automatically opt for a questionnaire, we circulate it and we distribute it, we get it back. Sometimes we don't get it back. Sometimes we get it back with a complete filling up of all the things. But sometimes we get an incomplete, impreciseness will be there, vague responses. So these are certain limitations of the questionnaire method and we are supposed to get along with that. We have to go for alternative rectifying. So data cleanliness must be there. So data has to be cleansed completely. We have to go with the manipulating. So other further things are there as an alteration to the deficit what we are going to feel when we are going to administering the method of a questionnaire. So this is a wide difference and discussion about the method of schedule and the method of questionnaire. So as I was telling, it depends. It depends purely on the researcher and the research problem depending on the nature of the respondents. So again the choice goes to the researcher only. And what is a survey and questionnaire? Even in survey also we have questions. In questionnaire also we have questions. But what makes the difference? See, a questionnaire is used to collect the data. You give a list of questions to the respondents. You just throw some questions to them and you just collect data from them. That's it. But when it comes with a survey, your survey doesn't stop with the data collection, but the intention of collecting the data is to go for a statistical analysis. That is the pretty difference between your survey and questionnaire. As I said, questionnaire is just a set of questions to collect data. I was just putting you an example. When you're going to go to a gym or when you're going to go for a doctor, going to go for a routine medical checkup, you give some sort of questions will be there. What is your name? Where are you from? They'll be eliciting some basic information. How long you've been suffering from diabetes? Some basic things will be asking. And for a medic, why I've been here? When did you check up? Have the last? And what was your blood sugar level? So these are some normal questions to collect it. But then, suppose when I'm going to go for a statistical analysis, suppose if I'm going to say how many persons are having a diabetes, so which age group is in there, so what is a difference in the record of their diabetic level at regular periods of time, or maybe after administering this type of medicine, what about their sugar level? So if I'm going to test all those things, then that you're going to make analysis, no? So that's the difference. And here, if you're going to have simply a record of all your members of a gym, maybe, then I can say that it's just a questionnaire you collect and do it. But you're going to have an analysis, okay, what type of professionals are visiting your gym? So what type of persons, how many hours they are spending, and what is their expectation from them? So what do they do it? What are the benefits they are doing? So why are they joining their gym? So what is the effect of joining after their gym? So how about the changes they do feel? How about the change in their BMI? So how about the feeling change in attitude towards themselves? So many things I can go ahead. I can go for a statistical analysis. So that's a pretty difference between your survey and questionnaire. So all runs with the questions. Without questions, we cannot construct a survey. So questionnaire is very important, but how well you construct and how you take the question to the next level. So that is a survey. So whenever a survey is being conducted, it is not just stop with the collection of data, but it goes for the statistical analysis. So have in mind, when I'm going to take a survey, when I'm going to prepare some set of questions and I'm going to post it online and getting back all your responses, it is not just a collection of data. Okay, I have posted a survey, I have got back the replies. No, not at all. It is something you go with the analysis, go with the statistical analysis with the data what you have collected. So that is the ultimate aim of a survey, and this is how it stands distinct from questionnaire. So we have just seen about the various methods starting from observation, interview, survey, schedule, questionnaire and so on. And now it is a turn for the case study. Before I could say that case study is a method to collect data, I can say case study is itself a kind of research. Yes, it's a kind of a type of research as we go with exploratory, analytical, pure, fundamental, basic, applied, action. Case study is also a kind of research. So we'll see now what is all about this method is. That's why I just took it very specially. I'm presenting in a final section of the video, and I want to present it in a distinct manner because case study, it is something very much pretty different. It looks very different, and it demands a lot of skills and patience to go ahead with a case study. Now we'll see. It is a research method. Of course, it has originated in clinical medicine. It is an empirical inquiry. It is a reliable exploratory tool. Okay, these are some attributes I can say for a case study method. Now, the case study, the word case, I think the word case appears in medical. So when I go with the medicine, a medical history, we'll look at the case, the patient case, what happened in that sense. Then we go with the police records, we say that when you deal with that particular case, so maybe an incident, a theft case, it will be there. It can be a murder case. So it can be a chain snatch or a kidnap. It can be any case. So here, we always go with a specificity. We deal that as a whole. We don't partition it and we go ahead. When we take a particular case in a medical field, we alone go in search in depth for it. So our research focus will be, our focus will be much only on that particular case. So here, case study, it focuses on the individual, the information about them, and also will go in depth and will gain lot of insights. So in case study, I focus on a particular individual. It need not be an individual person. It cannot be individual object. It can be even an organization. Only one particular organization I'm going to focus. One particular area I'm going to focus. One particular type of people I'm going to focus. So I'm just going to confine my study to an individual. It can be a person or it can be an institution. Then I start eliciting information about the individual. So what are the basic information I can get? So I just go on deep in that. So I start not just getting a very fundamental information about the individual. I just to go in depth of information about that individual. When I go in depth, then I started to gain a lot of insights. So definitely when you're going to pose yourself as a researcher, when you're just focusing on the individual, you say that I focused on the individual, I started collecting information about them, and not information at the fundamental level, element level, I just start go penetrating in deep. Then as a result of it, I got a lot of insights. So this is how the case study involves. As a researcher, the researcher will be always focusing with himself as well as with the subject what is to be done. So here the case study is focusing much on the individual's information in depth, and individual's informations with in depth gaining a lot of insights. So this is all about the case study, the major thing we are going to say that. And here, as I said, it has been having an originated in clinical medicine. You look at the things. Suppose in case if you are going to meet with some psychiatric problem over that, then immediately, in order to give a solution to that particular problem, we will be referring to the previous cases, whether it has been taken place or not. So if such cases have been taken place, you start going towards that particular case and you will explore it, how it has been taking place and what has been done. So here you always go with an inquiry. You always go on, keep on asking a lot of questions. Why, what, how, then how it has been happened. So you go in depth into it. Then as a result of it, you have started a lot explore. And it is of course what the social scientist research people say that it is a reliable exploratory tool. So you can go with a lot of exploration, you can gain a lot of insights out of it. So the case study method is quite interesting. And when you're going to put into practice also, we are going to learn much about one particular aspect. That is, we will be focusing on one individual aspect. And now, so Robert and Helen are notable and renowned social researchers. And here we can say that even they were social scientists also. To that extent, they have contributed a lot towards this case study method. And here they have just given some 6 steps in a case study method. So you define and determine the research questions. You go with the selection of cases, data gathering and analysis technique. Prepare to collect data. You collect data in the field. You evaluate and analyze the data, and you prepare the report. So when you're going to see all these steps, doesn't sound like a research method. That's what I just initially said. Case study is itself a kind of research. So here we are going to see both the things together. That is how a case study has a method to collect data and how it is a kind of research method by itself. So I think these steps and explanations under each head will give us a comprehensive understanding about what a case study method is all about. Okay, you determine and define the research questions. Alright, now as I always keep on repeating this particular statement, whatever method you are going to select, never mind. But you have to have a keen idea. And what is your research objective? What is your research is focusing on? What is your research question is all about? Why are you undertaking this research? And how this data collection will be helpful for you? How it will be substantiating your research? So all these aspects we must have a clear mind. Sometimes we will be having something in our mind as a research question, we start focusing on that and we'll be getting deviated many times, and it should not take place because that leads into a lot of troubles. That's why we always go with a structured way. We never opt for an unstructured way. When you go with a structured way, yeah, we know well defined, very defined will be there, so we can go along with that. It will be acting as a guide for us. If you feel that when you go with the unstructured way, then automatically it leads you into some mess and it gets yourself deviated from what are you supposed to do that. So always have in mind, you always go with a structured way so that it will be very useful for you to get along, it will be in the line throughout your research. So here again I have determined and defined my research questions. If I'm going to choose the case study method, okay, what is my research is? What is my research question? What is my research project? On what I'm going to do a research, whether it is an organization or whether I'm going to go with a person or whether it is going to my research on an object. So that is very, very essential. And then when you're going to define my research questions, then automatically I'll be having an idea of the literature. There is a need for the previous studies. I want to design a blueprint. Okay, what I'm supposed to do that? How far they have been done? And what is the gap? how can the gap could be bridged? How can I fill this gap? All these things are very, very essential. I have to lay a blueprint of my current study. So why am I doing this research right now? So how many have been touched this area before? What were their contributions? So what were their suggestions? So where is the lag? How can I bridge this gap? So all these aspects I must have a clear cut idea about it. And then select the cases. So if I'm going to focus on one particular aspect, I'm going to say about the organizational policies, if I'm going to say about the impact of introduction a new planning strategy, so I will be just to go ahead with the companies which have introduced already this planning strategy or this evaluation strategy. So it can be anything. So if I'm going to go ahead with that, I always go with a selection of the cases. So once I go to select the cases, then I will be going with a data collection. Whether you are going to choose only a single case and going to explore it, or a multiple cases you are going to explore, it depends on you. So what type of method you are going to use to collect the data? So here, when I am going to say about the case study, here I am just putting up the word like method of data collection. That's what I am telling. Case study is itself a research method. So for example, researchers, if they need to determine what data they would wish to gather by examining a case. Suppose I'm going to examine a particular case over there, maybe a medical, maybe an organization, or maybe an institution, their policies and their nature of work. And I can say that what are the new ways or innovative ways they are doing it to build interest amidst the students towards learning, or what are the new ways of online education systems they are doing it, what are the new ways of online payment or online administrative works they are doing it. So if I'm going to go with a case study, because we always refer to that, when I'm going to introduce certain things, we always give a reference. See, this college also has done it, this institution has also done it. We refer with a particular case. Even that institution is sounding better. The people of that area are doing this work good. The entrepreneurs, the women entrepreneurs of one particular area are doing good. So what is the reason behind it? Let us explore it. The banking industry is very good. So here we can go with industrial sectors. Now you can say the negation also. The use of pesticides by the agriculture laborers in that particular area, it's not good. So the agricultural techniques, the natural ways of doing agriculture being done better by those people. So when I'm going to take particularly, so specific they are. So I want to just find how I'm going to analyze, what type of data I'm just going to get from the case study or get the cases. Whether I'm going to choose one particular area and this with respect to only this particular people, I'm going to focus my research. I'm going to take a case study with respect to one particular college, but taking at the global level what they have done, what is their contribution. So I will start having this particular institution as a model for me, and I will start doing it. So that is the case way. I can use n number of methods. I can use interviews or survey or observations. So I can use what type of methods with respect to my case. And also, whatever the data I'm just going to collect, I must have the internal and external validity. So what is internal validity? So whenever you are going to ensure the same conditions you're going to apply, every now and then you will be having the same thing, the same result, the same outcome will be there. That will be the internal validity. When you go with the external validity, when you are going to find your generalization of the findings, so that time you can go with the external validity. So a case study is said to be more external valid when it can withstand more people, places and procedures. So these are the aspects you're going to focus with the selection of the cases and data, gathering about the cases, and you're going to analyze about the data what you have gathered about the cases. So when I'm going to particularly focus on one particular thing, I just start eliciting, I just start to gather information. So I can use any of the methods. So it is very, very important over here. And what is the next one? You prepare to collect the data. See, I just like to give some examples. Maybe in many of the movies I can also say, when a particular person start investigating, I said already it's an inquiry, empirical inquiry. When you just start investigating, the person, if you are going to explore certain new things, every time you will not be getting an oral response. Sometimes the researchers must be able to understand the hesitations, the response hesitation also. Just I can say they should be able to read between the lines. So the researcher must be very well versed in able to get the pulse of the respondents, in what way they are responding it. Suppose if you are going to investigate, or if you are going to explore, if you are going to examine some impacts of the use of pesticides on particular agriculture labors, it is highly cancerous in nature, carcinogenic in nature. And if I'm going to introspect into that, if I'm going to investigate in that aspect, do you think that all the respondents will be giving the immediate reply? Because they are working in a particular concern, and if they say that the pesticides used by them are hazardous to them, no, they won't do that. Some people will be giving the responses immediately, but not all. Sometimes they'll be hesitating it. And even the hesitation is actually like a stimulus for them to elicit more information about that. And here, the researchers should be very bold enough in facing such case study methods. Because not everyone is ready to take up the case study, because it is having a lot of challenges. There will be lots of threats behind them. And there will be lack of space also for them to hold the interviews. They will be having some unexpected things. You may not expect the respondents to react and respond very well to them every now and then. So they should be able to prepare themselves to collect the data. And then collect data in the field. So whenever you start collecting the data, it is a preparatory phase, and then you start collecting your data. You store multiple sources of evidences. It is not just one source. Whatever information you're getting, kindly start storing it, because that sounds better. Because once again, you will not be able to getting a chance to revive back every now and then. Once you are getting a particular data pertaining to your case, then automatically you start recording all your evidences. And start to take some field notes. So field notes are something different. What you exactly take when you step into the field. So that's an actual one. And start you documenting and you classify all your evidences. So if I'm going to collect a pakka data about all the description, all the history, everything about one particular institution or organization or one particular product or one particular person, then automatically I have to start collecting all the information from whatever sources I'm getting. They are the evidences. And here you document it and you just start classifying it. Classifying in the sense whether it is pertaining to his personal, about his social, about his policies or about his interaction. In what way you can classify? It depends on the type of the evidences that you are getting into it. And then automatically you go with the evaluation, analyzing the data. So you go with the interpretations. You start interpreting different levels. So what are the data you have got so far? What are the evidences you have got so far? And why can't you interpret? So once we have the data in our hand, and we can start interpreting. So, and we have to find whether there is a linkage between what your objectives and your outcomes. So whether you are going to explore this advantages with respect to this type of people, whether you are getting the same advantages as your outcomes or not. And of course, it is a collaboration of both quantitative and qualitative. In case study, no, you won't say that I need only quantitative, I need only qualitative. No, it is a collaboration of both. You will be having a mixture of both quantitative and qualitative data, and with that you are supposed to make an evaluation and analysis. And of course, we are supposed to prepare the report as a very final stage. We publish your reports, and it is always open for the comments and criticism. And once you are getting a valid criticism, you can just update into it, and again you can republish these reports. Again you can open into a discussion or a forum over it. So case study is not just a method of data collection, it's itself a research. So once if you are going to administer this case study method, it demands a lot of patience, it demands a lot of skills. It is not that easy. Because when you are going to explore one particular focus with a full of your dedicated attention and full of your mindset is focusing on only one particular aspect and going and in-depth explore, you will be getting lots and lots of evidences. You may aim at one thing and you will be getting a lot of information, maybe in favor of it or in contact with that. So it depends on how you take it into it. And what are the merits? As I said, once you start to explore new things, you can go with a generation of new theory. And of course, it is an applicability to the real life. Why we always go with the case study? Why we need a substantiations? Why we go with the exploration? All that we have are real life applications. And even if you're going to have a very complex theory, if you're going to explain, people will not able to understand. But you just give an example, even a common man will be understanding. So case study is only is all about. When you're going to see that an impact of globalization, privatization of the economy, world level, maybe not everyone is able to understand. But you give a particular example, what is the impact of globalizations, what is the impact of privatizations in your local area at your own level, then he or she will be able to understand much better. So we always discuss much about this qualitative informations will be there, which will be taking into a future research. And limitations, of course. The one limitation is we always deal with a large size of populations, large size of samples. But here, no, with only one case, we cannot go for generalization. Not with the one institution, not with the one organization is working on very well. It doesn't mean that it works on well with all the organizations and all the institutions. And researcher subjectivity also plays an important. How the researcher is subjecting herself. The perception of the researcher is also playing a very important role. And of course, it is time constrained. As I said before, it is not that easy because as a single person, you are going to collect information about a wholesome thing and you want to make it as a holistic one. It really consumes a lot of time. And now, it is of course difficult to replicate. Say, when you're going to do this kind of research, and again you cannot go replicate and check with the validity and do it because itself is a time consuming. And how can you go on repeat and same thing with again these things, and it's a tough process also. It is a tedious one and it will be a highly challenging one to the researcher. So case study is a very exciting and interesting method, but taking out this method and for collecting the data and then going for insights, as I said before, it demands a lot of patience on the side of the researcher and the expecting full cooperation from the respondents at every now and then, it is not possible. So the researchers know they want to have special skills also to acquire such information. They want to read their lines, I have to say, they have to read their minds also. They should be having a proficiency to read between the lines and read their minds also. Only then they will be able to get accustomed to the such situations, how to tackle it and things. So in the past 4 videos also we have seen about the different methods of data collection. So as I said in the very first introductory video, data collection is a very important step. So the way you are collecting the data, the method you are selecting to collect the data is very much indeed. You must be very much appropriate and more selective in selecting the method. Not just any method you can just go ahead with collecting the data. Whatever method is suitable for your research, it is very important. So when you're going to formulate your research design, you should incorporate all these things. You should be able to know about your main intention of why are you taking up the research, what type of respondents, what is your sampling, and what type of sample you are going to use it. All these are going to play a major role because the method you are going to choose for collecting the data, it depends on all these things. It depends on your type of your research objectives. It depends upon the nature of your respondents, about your sampling type. It is having a very direct linkage. As I said, research is a stepwise process and it is not a single step process. You cannot do research with just a single step. No, it's not possible at all. It is a sequence of steps, and also it's a sequence of steps which are interrelated to one another. You cannot just skip one step and you can't go to the other step. No, it's not like that. You have to complete each and every step and then only you can move on to the other step to make research as a holistic way. So these past videos we have seen a lot of ideas about the different methods of data collection, and let us choose a right method to collect data and to make our research sound better.